Hello everybody, I believe we are live. I'm going to double check real quick here to make sure before we actually get started. And we are. So hello and happy Sunday. I hope you are all having an absolutely wonderful weekend. I'm going to kind of wait a couple minutes and give people an opportunity to join. Andrew, hello, thank you. Yeah, it's hard to tell on my phone, like it says live, but sometimes it's not actually, so I like to double check. I think I can just click this too and it'll wave back. There we go, hello. Hello Patrick, hello John. Lots of familiar faces today. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes. Felix, do you wanna say hi? Hey buddy. No, he doesn't wanna come say hi. And Felix is my puppy who you'll probably see me tripping over the next little bit of time. Hello, Jane. All right, so it looks like, and KD, hello. Oh, I can wave. I like this little wave back at you thing. Sweet. All right, hey buddy. Still doesn't, he wants to come over and say hi until I actually ask him if he wants to say hi. Kel, hello. All right, so this is the first edition of our kitchen series for the next month here. And you know, we're going to be trying a bunch of different things, but we thought that it would be really appropriate to start off with kitchen sink meals. And kitchen sink meals are something that, you know, typically when you talk about them, they're at the end of the week, before you go grocery shopping. Let's use everything that's in the fridge before buying anything new, right? To kind of prevent food waste and save money too, right? Because food is expensive, so let's not throw it away if we don't have to. But this week, I'm gonna do something a little different, and I am going to go over my entire meal prep, which I did 100% from things that I had at home. That's a lie. I had to buy one thing, and I will tell you what that thing is, but that is something that I normally have in my kitchen and is easily accessible. I also made sure that everything that I used is something that I have seen in grocery stores lately, because, you know, there's been a lot of things that have been really hard to find, like eggs and butter, and just like some staples protein-wise. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't use any of those ingredients in case you are still having troubles finding them. That being said, like in the future, we will definitely have recipe like follow along streams, but today I'm gonna kind of go over, I'm gonna show you what I made, but it's gonna be less recipe follow along and more, let's show the process, and I will show you what I ended up with. And I'm really, really happy with it actually, even though I never made any of these things before, or not this exact style of these things before. So looking at kitchen sink meals overall, you know, the first thing that I really like to do with these is really take an inventory of what I've got. And you'll see I've got a ton of stuff on my counter behind me. Normally when I take inventory, I don't take everything out of the fridge and everything out of the counters and lay it out, but I wanted to show you what I had and kind of the process, so that's why I did it this time. Also, inventory, if you're just doing it for a single meal at the end of the week, can take 3 minutes. You know, you just open up your fridge and say, this is what I got, bing, bang, boom, like it's done. But for this, where I wanted to do an entire prep, 100% with stuff that I already had, I wanted to lay everything out because that really allowed me to see the ingredients together and kind of fuel that creative process a little bit. Because one of the big things with kitchen sink meals is that it is a creative process, right? You're taking ingredients that normally might not go together or you've never put together before, and you're putting them together, and it might turn out great, it might not. So there's one thing to just make note of. What you make in your kitchen sink meal, it could turn out absolutely incredible, best thing ever. Some of my meal prep meals actually started out as kitchen sink meals. So things that are staples in my meal repository now, like came from a kitchen sink meal. But it doesn't always work out that way. I remember one of my first memories as a child was actually making a kitchen sink meal. We've been doing this, or I've been doing this since I was a kid, where we were looking to make some sort of dessert. My mom was tired. She said, just go to the kitchen and try to make something. So I ended up making this chocolate pudding, and I fed it to her, and I just remember her like having the spoon of pudding in her mouth being like, what did you put in this? Because she didn't want to swallow it because she thought that I actually went into the kitchen sink and got out poison or something because it tasted so bad. And what I had actually done is I had taken chocolate pudding mix and added powdered lemonade mix, which is just a terrible idea, but as a kid it sounded great, right? Like chocolate good, lemonade good. So they're not always going to turn out great, but that's okay. And part of this, like especially if you're doing this with kids or anybody like that, where you're trying to really instill like a love of cooking and everything, allowing them to experiment is a great activity. Like I still had a great time that night exploring and trying to make a recipe. Didn't turn out so great, but I learned for, the next time, and it was totally fine. So all of that to be said, it might not turn out great, might turn out fantastic, and that's okay. So looking at everything here, we've got our inventory. I've got that all laid out here. In the middle is the food that I made already. But the first thing, so I've got this put into categories, and I'm gonna kind of go over everything because one big thing that people were asking in Discord as well was, what are your staples? And my kitchen is very, very sparse right now, so we are down to nothing but staples. So this is a great opportunity to even show you. So I'm gonna go get things and bring them. I don't really trust this camera setup. But the first thing that I've got here for staples, I've just got some baking mix. This is gluten-free just because I'm gluten-free. If you're not gluten-free, it doesn't matter, obviously. So we've got some baking mix. This is protein powder. I really like protein powder. You can really add it in anything. And then just some coconut flour. That really works really well with a lot of different recipes and options. So I really like to have that. The next thing here, these are just some oils, and I've got some more, but looking at staples, just some olive oil and some coconut oil. Those are my two big staples. If I was going to go to a third, it would be avocado oil, but these are the big two. So those are my favorite oils. And then we start to look at some of these little acids that I've got. So a vinegar, this is my favorite vinegar, it's balsamic. That is my staple, but everybody's got their own favorite. And then I really like to always keep lemon and lime juice because they both have a really cool different flavor profile that can go with a lot of different recipes. So I like to keep these in the house. And yes, on an ideal situation, I'd have a fresh lemon and a fresh lime, but it doesn't really matter. So got those. And then, this entire pile right here is just some spices and sauces. And I really like spice mixes because it really helps you kind of experiment with things. So like this right here is one of my favorite spice mixes. It's just a barbecue style. But what I like about spice mixes is you can kind of try a bunch of different flavors without it being, like, you don't have to buy all 10 spices individually. You can just buy one, try it out. If you really like it or like different flavors from that spice, then you can incorporate that into a future recipe. But yeah, so I like kind of spice mixes as a staple. And then sauces, other spices, salt and pepper are staples. And then if we're looking at sauces, I like to keep a barbecue sauce, a teriyaki sauce, mustard. You can make a lot with mustard, and then a sriracha sauce and a mayo. So those are my 5 staple sauces that I typically keep here. Looking at over here, and yes, this is actually all I have right now. I'm trying to really not buy more than I need right now. So this is what I've got. And these are sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes I really like because they don't, they last for a while after you buy them. So sweet potatoes, I always have some onions. I actually cut them up for my cooking. So I'm gonna put these in the fridge and then I'll use them throughout the week. And apples. So apples are another thing that I really like to have because they just don't, you know, they're not a 4-day shelf life. They last for a while. So all of these potatoes and these apples, you know, they had been in my cabinet for a little while and I just hadn't been eating them. So we used them today. Looking at some carbs, rice is a favorite. This is just long grain rice. If we're looking at different types of rice, Nerd Fitness has a great article that I will link in the Discord about choosing which type of rice you want. This is just a white long grain rice, and it's a great staple. You know, you'll see a lot of recipes that call for a specific type of rice, but you know, in general, especially when we're looking at a kitchen sink meal, I don't stress the type of rice. I just use what I've got. Another thing that I really like to keep is just corn tortillas. These, you know, they last for a while and you can make a lot of different things with them. I'm also a huge taco fan, which is one of the things that I made. So I really like having the corn tortillas available for the tacos. If we're looking at staples, there are two other staples that I just personally don't eat are oats and beans. So those are great things to buy. I, you know, will obviously have recipes using those in the future because they are great foods. I just don't personally eat them, so I don't have them to show you today. Looking at some of our next little categories here, you know, looking at nuts, so walnuts and almonds, you know, whichever nuts you really like. Those are a really great staple. And then, you know, some nut butter. So I've got almond butter there. Looking here, I see a thing. Yeah, apples are super easy to do anything with when they go bad. So I really, yeah, they're perfect for that reason as well. Great call, Patrick. Looking at this next category here. Oh, well, one other thing that I had that I used also, so it's empty, is raisins. So things like that can add a little sweetness to recipes where you wouldn't otherwise have some sweetness. Final two categories real quick are going to be just random canned flavors. So I've got a couple here. These are ones that I always keep in my pantry. I really like cranberry sauce year round, not just a Thanksgiving thing for me. Pineapple, you can really make a lot of fun things with pineapple and it's in a can, so I really like that. And then I really like peppers and adobo sauce. I used this, if you can't tell, so I'm gonna have to put the rest in the fridge, but that is a really way if you want to make any sort of like Mexican flavor, especially with tacos. That's a great thing to have. And then lastly, like bone broth or, you know, I like to keep bone broth in the cabinet. I also like to keep stock and broth as well, but this is what I had today and this is what I used. So, you know, they're not exactly like exchange, but if we're looking at a kitchen sink meal, it might actually work that way. So that's there. The last thing is really gonna be proteins. So proteins are gonna be your harder ones because, you know, they've been harder to find, at least I've found. I've been really struggling finding chicken lately. Chicken is a staple in my diet, so I've been really struggling with finding that. So really sticking with some staples. I like tuna, always keep some tuna in the cabinet. And then things that freeze really easily and thaw really quickly and easily I like. So a couple of things that I always keep in my freezer is just gonna be ground beef, chicken sausage, bacon, and then I used all of this, but fish. So just frozen fish there. So yeah, that's really it for what I have in my kitchen for staples right now. Like I mentioned, we are going to have a whole setting up your kitchen stream later on. But I wanted to just kind of go over some of the staples today. As some of you mentioned, that kind of like you go to the grocery store now and you're overwhelmed and don't know what to buy. So, you know, you just kind of end up with what's easiest, right? Which is totally normal to do. So first step is take inventory. So we've done that, we know exactly what I've got. And then second step is to really start to play with flavors and trying to come up with recipes based off of those flavors. And there's a couple of different tools that I like to use. But the first thing that I just wanted to mention is being really open-minded here is really important. And like I kind of said before, some of my favorite kitchen sink meals end up my staples, and they are with flavors that I would have never thought to put together. But I just kind of thought about it like when I was trying to put the kitchen sink meal together, and I was like, those might work, and they really did. One thing that I really think about when I start to put together a kitchen sink meal, if you are a Friends fan, there was an episode where Rachel tries to make a trifle and she mixes up 2 different recipes, and everybody hates it. Like, everybody absolutely hates it. But Joey starts eating it, and everyone's like, what are you, crazy? He's like, what's not to like? Custard, good. Jam, good. Meat, good. Right? So they're like flavors that wouldn't go together, but he liked it, and I might not actually like that recipe. But I think about that a lot when I'm putting these meals together. And it kind of makes me laugh also, because when I'm starting to compare the ingredients, I've got these 2 in front of me. So tuna is good, peppers are good, probably wouldn't be good together, but so I just start to compare and think about those types of things. Just looking real quick at some comments that are coming in. Canned pineapple, yes, pineapple is amazing in stir fry, and that is one of my favorite meals to make. I actually thought about making that this week, and I decided to make a different rice dish instead, but I will talk about that as well. One other thing I actually forgot about, because I didn't pull it out of the freezer, is frozen vegetables. I just didn't want them to thaw out during this time, and I didn't want y'all to have to wait for me to put them all back. So frozen vegetables, whatever type you can get, perfect. All right, so once you take your inventory, start to really look at your ingredients and figure out what you think would taste well together. So the first thing that I made, I ended up making a rice, and this is a rice with carrots and raisins and onion. And with this is something I've never made before, but I remember, I was just kind of looking at everything that I had when I pulled rice out and I pulled raisins out, and I remembered kind of back as a kid, having something at Rosh Hashanah that it was a rice and it had raisins. So I just literally used my Google Home, and I was like, hey Google, what is a recipe that has raisins and rice? And it gave me exactly what I wanted. It gave me a recipe that was specifically had Rosh Hashanah mentioned in it, so it was exactly what I was looking for. And I do that a lot with different things, and trying to think back with different things I've had at restaurants and things like that I've liked, right? And I just kind of look at the recipe. So search for the recipe, and you can pull up a few different options as well, because there's hundreds of thousands of recipes on the internet, right? And I usually pick through them and see, okay, what is it? What does it ask for? What of those things do I have? And then what things out of the things that I don't have can I just go without, right? This recipe, I actually did not, this is the one ingredient that I didn't have. I didn't have carrots. So I picked up carrots when I went to the store. But that is the one recipe, that is the one ingredient that I didn't have that I mentioned. So looking at everything, I could have done it without the carrots. I just wanted to, and I was at the store anyway for my weekly trip out of the house. So I picked them up, and they've been something that's been readily available anyway. This is something, I made this with the rice, the raisins that I had left over, carrots, onions, and then I cooked the rice in a chicken broth. I will also, by the way, share all of the recipes that I ended up making in the Discord, just in case you're interested. But I made this, and I really like rice dishes as something to make as a part of kitchen sink meals, or kitchen sink preps, which we're doing, because you can really do a lot with them and eat a lot with the rice. So I can then take that rice and use it as a base for a bunch of different meals throughout the week, right? So I can have it with chicken, I can have it with beef, I can have it with whatever I want. And that's just the side, and it's made, and it's all set and ready. usually after I figure out my first recipe, I start to try to figure out my plan for my meals for the week, right? Because I'm not just gonna make one recipe. So I will also show you in the Discord just a print. I'll take a picture of it because I do it on pencil and paper, and just start to figure out what I want to eat for each meal. So I know that I've got this rice and I can use that as a base for things. So then I'm gonna start to look, okay, that's kind of one sort of flavor profile, and looking at a different flavor profile, because I don't wanna just eat the same flavor profile all day, right? Like, or all week. So looking at different things, I also knew that I had a ton of sweet potatoes and I had a ton of apples. So I literally just Googled sweet potato apple. Because I bake sweet potatoes, and that I do that all the time, but it's kind of boring. And I found a recipe for sweet potato, apple, and bacon. And I ended up adding in onion to it. I really like onion, if you haven't figured that out. And ended up making this little guy here. And this is actually one of the favorite things that I made. So I took my sweet potatoes and my apples, I chopped them up, and then I cooked up some bacon and onion, and then I mixed them all together and I baked them. One other thing that I added in here, I had some Brussels sprouts, and I'm not sure how many of them you can see in here because there weren't that many, but I had about half a pound of Brussels sprouts just hanging out. They were starting to look a little sad, so really needed to cook them today. So I added the Brussels sprouts to it, because why not? One of my favorite staple meals is like bacon and Brussels sprouts baked. So I figured, why not just add the Brussels sprouts to the sweet potato, right? So that's where I say there's like a lot of experimentation with flavors that go well together, and then just kind of mixing them all up and seeing what happens. With this dish right here, one thing that I absolutely love with it is you can kind of use it really across the board as any meal of the day. So if we look at breakfast, if you're able to find eggs, which I have been able to lately, I've been super lucky to be able to find eggs, you can just take a little bit of that in a bowl, heat it up, add a fried egg to it, and you've got a great breakfast. Or you could, take a bowl of that and add some, like that chicken sausage that I've got. You can add the chicken sausage, or really any other meat to it. If you've ever tried Nom Nom Paleo's Kahlua pig recipe, which again, everything I talk about, I will link in the Discord. If you've ever tried that recipe, that would be amazing over something like this sweet potato apple thing that I made. It's a pork dish that is like a pulled pork that lasts really well. So it's one of my meal prep staples, but add some of that on top of the apple thing, it would be amazing. So I really like, if you notice, like the things that I've made are really bases, so I can add to them throughout the week and make a bunch of different things with them. And I really like meals that I can make a ton of things with, because let's be honest, like you eat the same thing every day, it can get kind of boring, but I don't want to cook a different meal for every single meal. I'm really, like, I enjoy cooking, but I'm also really lazy. I actually just don't like cleaning up. So if I could cook and just not clean up, I would probably cook a different thing for every meal, but the last thing that I made already is a fish taco. And I really wanted to do this because I have like 7 pounds of frozen fish in my freezer because I got a bunch on sale, and while I like frozen fish, I really prefer fresh. So I typically will not make the frozen fish if I'm able to buy it fresh. So then I just end up with like these big piles of frozen fish in the freezer. So what I ended up doing is I made a fish taco, and this is just the fish because I'm not gonna put it on the tortillas and then save it, because it'll just make the tortillas soggy. But what I did for this, for the fish, is I actually So my spice pantry is extremely sad right now. I'm really running low. I keep forgetting to buy things on my weekly shopping trip, so we are really bare bones. So what I ended up doing is I had this in the very back of my pantry, and it's made for beef. And I am assuming that I saw it at the store and just wanted to try it and never did. I just kind of forgot about it. But it is this like taco skillet sauce. As you can see, it says beef on it. But when I looked at different fish taco recipes, I saw that the things that it was asking for were very similar to the ingredients in this. So I just used this and they came out really, really well. So don't be afraid if something says, like this says ground beef on it, doesn't mean you have to use it with ground beef. I used it with fish, turned out absolutely great. One other thing that I made along with it, I'm actually really proud of this because I've never made anything like this before. And it's still in my blender because I need to get it out, but I didn't have time before this started. This is a, like a chipotle crema of sorts. And it is just Greek yogurt, which is one of my also staples that I put it back in the fridge because I didn't want it to go bad. But it is Greek yogurt, one of these peppers, and some lime juice, just blend it up, and it is perfect for the tacos. So that's, you know, still in the blender, but that's there. So those will be kind of the bases over the next couple of days of things that I will make. I will also heat up a really big thing of frozen broccoli just to have on the side of everything, just to get my vegetables in. I also really like the steamable vegetables. If you and I have talked about food at all, you'll know that one of my favorite kind of emergency meals is chicken sausage and steamable vegetables because they both heat up really quick and are delicious. So I really like those. So, you know, looking at food overall, I'll make, or what I'm going to use to add to this is I'm going to add frozen vegetables, and then I am going to also probably make some more protein kind of throughout the week, just because these dishes are more, you know, base foods to add to. And with that, so one of the things that I was able to find is chicken thighs yesterday. I haven't made them yet, but I will probably just cook those super plain with salt and pepper, because that way they will kind of go with every single base that I've made. So I don't have to think about, because I've already got a taco that has a lot of lime and Mexican flavors and spicy. I've got this sweet rice, which I didn't use all of the spices that I was supposed to because I didn't have them, but it's kind of sweet. It's got raisins, it's got carrots. So that would taste really good with like a chicken, you know, a plain chicken. And I've got this sweet potato apple hash, which is full of flavor, and I'm not going to want to have a super flavorful protein kind of contrast with that, right? Because it's got so much flavor already. I don't want to add too much extra, so I'll probably do something more plain with that. So like I said, I will share all of these recipes in case you're interested, as well as my entire plan for what I'm going to do with it to eat this week. This is my entire prep. A couple other things with finding recipes, you know, ask Google, look on your phone. There's also websites where you can put in the ingredients that you have and like hit submit. I'll include these in the Discord as well, by the way. And then it will just pop out a bunch of different recipes. One thing that I don't like about those sites specifically is a lot of times I'll say, okay, I have rice, and it will give me 30 recipes for plain rice. And I'm good with that, right? I want something a little more fun and exciting. So I really prefer to literally pick up my phone or ask Google, find me a recipe that includes this. All of the flavors that are in the recipe, you know, sometimes, you know, you can do without them. Sometimes you can add new flavors. Really, it's just testing out and trying. And a lot of times when I'm making these things, it's experiment as you go. So it's taste a little bit of this, taste a little bit of that, put them together, see if they taste good together or not. If they do, keep moving forward. If they don't, try something else. So this is one of my favorite things to do because it's so much fun. You know, you really just kind of experiment and see what what's good. Especially, you know, my typical meal prep is pretty plain throughout the week. So I will start off, you know, I'll typically do Monday or Sunday night through Thursday, kind of plain. And then as things start to run out, I'll start to make some kitchen sink meals. And that's when things really start to get fun. So I really like to do it that way and have these things super fun. Looking at everything here, I'm gonna see if there's any questions so far. I don't wanna put my hand over it. I'm looking at Cheryl, I have had no issues with the lime in the yogurt. This is Greek yogurt, and it's very thick. The one that I use or used for this is, it's actually the Skyr, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it's this Greek yogurt, and it came out really great, and it's been fine. Looking kind of go here. Yeah, the cleanup is absolutely the worst. I will include that Nom Nom Paleo recipe as well. Yeah, and looking back here, rice, yes. So rice is one of those things that you want to just get in the fridge as soon as possible. So as soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna throw that in the fridge. And you know, it's just, don't let it sit out for too long, but otherwise it's usually fine. Also, as soon as you can get it into the fridge after cooking, the better, typically with that. For foods I would avoid or recommend avoiding, generally this is going to really depend on your personal tastes. I like, especially with meal prep meals, I like foods that will last for a couple days. So one thing is that with this fish that I made, you know, fish I will typically try to eat sooner rather than later, just because it tends to, you know, go bad faster than like a chicken or a beef. So I will typically eat those first and then, you know, save the other meats for later in the week. Just, you know, they're not as good fresh. Oh, rice. So let me grab a real quick. Find it. So for pineapple rice, one of my favorite things to do with this is literally, we've got the rice, the pineapple, and then peas and carrots. So I usually cook the rice ahead. For stir fries, a lot of time it's better to make the rice ahead, and that's a great thing about it actually, because then you can just make a ton of plain rice as a base instead of trying to make something a little more fun than like I did today. So a lot of times I'll just make plain rice as a base, and then I'll saute that up in a pan with you know, some peas and carrots. And all I do with these is I will put them in a colander and run some water over it just to kind of thaw them a little bit, so I don't cook them first. Throw them into the pan, and then, you know, it's kind of wet with the pineapple as well. And then I, depending on what else I have available, I like eggs in like a stir fry, like a pineapple fried rice. Cashews can be really good if you want to do more Thai style. So what's green onions are also a great option there. But I really like that rice because you can make it with shrimp, you can make it with chicken, you can make it with beef. So that's another recipe that I make all the time that is really great for meal prep overall. I wanted to try something new today, so I ended up doing this other type of rice, but that is definitely a favorite. Pineapple salsa also, yes, that is a fantastic one that I just thought of another really great kitchen sink recipe, or a regular recipe really. If you've got frozen chicken in the freezer, add frozen chicken, or thawed chicken works too, but chicken, and then a can of salsa in a crock pot and let it cook all day. It's amazing, super easy, 3-second prep. And pineapple salsa specifically gives it a little extra flavor. I love pineapple, so that's gonna see there. Looking up at different things here and questions, I think I caught up there. Now I'm trying to see. with looking at things. With reheating rice, yeah, if you put a little bit of water in it, that can really help and stir it up. And then, yes, someone mentioned a wet paper towel. That can also really help there. Yes, adding water. So that's, you know, with rice, especially with something like that, that it takes in water when you cook it, right? When it starts to dry out, we just add that water back. You know, it's like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, you know, it's not a whole bunch, but that really helps. Also, you'll find that kind of like as the week goes on, it gets drier and drier. So at the first couple days, you might not need to. One other tip with kind of making all of this is make sure not to overcook it now. So I am super, super picky about my meal prep with making sure that everything comes out of the oven or off the stove as soon as it is done. Because when we go to reheat it, we are cooking it again, right? So I don't want to cook it, undercook it. Like I don't want to have pink chicken going into the microwave, but I also don't want it to be overdone because then I'm putting it into the microwave again, cooking it for longer, and then it ends up really dry. So I like to, you know, really focus on making sure that everything is cooked just to done and not a little further. Looking at meals overall, I think the big things, you know, that we went over are going to be inventory your kitchen. For inventorying your kitchen, by the way, I like to do a full inventory every 4 to 6 weeks. It really keeps it so I don't end up with fuzzy things in the back of my closet or my fridge. And I like to do like a mini inventory every week where I just open up the fridge and say, okay, I got this, this, and this, and I'm gonna make one meal out of this. This is a little different because I'm trying to eat 100% out of my cabinets. So, you know, inventory, plan out your meals. So just kind of figure out what you want to do for each meal, and then experiment and have fun. So, you know, add flavors where you want to, remove flavors where you don't have it, experiment. It might turn out not so great, might turn out fantastic. I very rarely have had anything come out inedible, which works really easy if I'm just cooking for myself, because I can just very easily say, guess what, this is what you're eating this week. You know, I don't have children to feed who are going to complain about it. It's only me complaining about it. So that definitely helps if it doesn't turn out great. If it doesn't turn out great, a lot of times I will have a little bit of it and mix it with something that came out a lot better, just to kind of minimize the amount of meh food that I made. But for the most part, it comes out okay. And these, I was really happy that these all came out really great on that first try. You know, and a lot of times what I'll do is when I make these, so I'll keep notes for myself, and then of what I want to do differently, what I would have really liked to have, what I thought it was missing, so that the next time I go to make the same thing, you know, I have those notes written down, or I know what to buy so that I have it next time, you know, just kind of available to use. So, you know, flavor profiles, play around. Two, I don't worry too much with meals like this about being perfect with flavor profiles. So I didn't make, like, for example, to go with my fish tacos, I didn't make a Mexican rice. I just decided to stick with the other rice that I made, which is definitely not Mexican at all, right? And I will probably just have those with broccoli. So I'll probably have fish tacos and broccoli for my lunches, because that's, my fish is my lunch meal. And then, so, you know, I don't worry about making everything perfect. For, you know, the dinner with the other rice, I'll just pair with whatever protein I have, and that'll be totally fine, because with these types of meals, we're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to use the food that we have, you know, make our lives a little bit easier, save a little money, waste a little less food. So, you know, a lot of times these won't be perfect. You know, it's not going to be Gordon Ramsay quality or anything like that. It might be if, you know, you do really well at it, but, you know, a lot of times they're just going to be meals just to, that are great, but, you know, they're not perfect, and don't worry about them being perfect. And then, yeah, just really putting things together there. I think, sorry, I'm trying to go through comments, which is probably a bad idea. All right, so I think that's it. Really, if there's any questions, feel free to ask below or in the Discord. Also, with these streams, this is the first kitchen stream that we have done, and we plan on doing lots more. Justin is doing one later this week on, I believe it's stress eating. Let me see here, just so that I'm not lying to you guys. No, he's actually going to be doing a Recipes 101, and then he's got a stress eating next week. So all of the topics that we are covering here are topics that we have seen y'all kind of request. So feel free to, request as many things as you want, and, either here or in the Discord, and, we'll make the schedule based off of what y'all are asking for, and then modify things. Also, feedback, like, what do you want to see? Like, do you want to see actual recipes that we follow along with? Do you want it to be more informative? Like all of these different things. Let me know the style you like better, and we will modify things based off of what you want. George, no, you can watch this later. It will be available. Yeah, we will have all of these videos available to watch at any time. I'm going to upload this to YouTube once I save it. So, with everything, your challenge for this week, if you choose to accept, is to make one kitchen sink meal. Doesn't have to be a whole prep, one meal, and post it in the Discord, and share the recipe if it came out good, if it came out bad. If it came out terrible, still include it. Like, that totally counts. The only thing, it doesn't matter how good it turns out. Everything counts. The only thing that matters is that you tried. Like I kind of mentioned at the very beginning, like, I've made some really, really bad meals, and the only way that I got better at kind of mixing things together, it was just by continually trying and, being okay with the results, regardless of if they're perfect or not, or if sometimes they come out tasting completely different than I planned, but they're still great. So that's there. Looking at things, I see a question with the calories. If you want to, you can kind of be putting things into MyFitnessPal as you go. I personally don't track calories at all, so I, do not keep track of things with my meal prep, but if I wanted to, what I would do if I did track calories would be to go into MyFitnessPal and just log things as I go to just kind of see what they are. And then, like, say it's something like this rice, right? So I know the total amount, because if I put it into MyFitnessPal, I'll know the total amount of calories in this bowl, and then I will split it up into however many meals it's made out of. This was a cup of dry rice, so it's about 2 cups. So it would be split into 4. So I'll have 4 portions out of this. So I would just take the total amount divided by 4. Obviously, like with a recipe like this, you're gonna get more of one ingredient and less of another, like when you split it like that, but it doesn't matter. Especially with things like, this one that, I know that I included 2 sweet potatoes, an onion, half of a pack of bacon, and around half a pound of Brussels sprouts, but it's not exact. And even if you are counting calories and trying to put the stuff into MyFitnessPal, I would not worry about it being exact. An estimate is totally fine, especially, with these types of meals where we're trying to do the best that we can overall. It's not gonna make a big difference in my day if I get 3 Brussels sprouts in my bowl of food or 2. So just estimate everything overall and do the best that you can there. All right, everybody. I think that's it for now. We've been going for about 45 minutes, so I'm going to head over to Discord now and include everything. MyFitnessPal does have a recipe maker as well, yes, so you can use that. But yeah, so let's move questions and everything over to Discord. I will get all of this information up in there as well, so you'll have it. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend, and we hope to see you. Let's see, what's tomorrow morning's first stream? is going to be a return to your breath stream tomorrow morning, talking about meditation with Jim and Coach Carrie. And that's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it because it's definitely something that I need to put into my day more. So hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I will see you all in Discord, and post your kitchen sink meals and let me know what you liked about it, what you didn't like about them, what you would do differently. And yeah, have a great time with it. All right, I will talk to you all in Discord. Bye.